Hello everyone, welcome to the first ever video on my card game, WarFlux TCG. This series is going to teach you everything you need to know about the game and how to play it. In today's episode, we're going to go over the basics. So in WarFlux, there are 4 card types you need to be aware of. Flux Gems, Champions, Creatures, and Sorcery cards. The first card type we're going to take a look at are the Champions. We'll swing back around and take a look at the Flux Gems a little later, after a brief rundown of the Champions and Creatures, and I'm hoping it'll make a little bit more sense that way. Champions act as your avatar on the field. They represent you in battle and come with amazing effects and buffs. Firstly is the Champion's name. You also have the art, and next is the Champion's health. This number is unique to each champion, and they won't all have the same health stat. Next is the Champion's effect. This effect lasts with you through the entirety of the battle. Some champions can turn the tide of the battle with their effects alone. Next is the Champion's alignment and type. The type is what kind of creature it is, human, goblin, elf, and so on. We'll come back around to the alignment a little later in the video. And finally is the Champion's set number and rarity. Champions are chosen before the battle begins, and as stated before, are your avatar in the battle, so they stay on the field throughout the whole game. But we're not going to get too far into board layout, turn rotation, or even setting up the game in this episode. The next card type we're going to take a look at are the creature cards. These cards are used to attack your opponent's champion and protect your champion from incoming damage. Just like with the champions, you have the creature's name and art. Next, you have the creature's flux cost. This is how many flux gems you need to exhaust in order to summon this creature to the field. We'll go over exhausting in a later video. One thing to keep in mind is that in WarFlux, there are no multicolor or multi-alignment creatures, and creatures must be summoned using only flux that matches its alignment. So in this example, Valiant Frontlinesman requires that you have 4 refreshed flux available in order to summon him. Next, if a creature has a trait or multiple traits, they would be listed here. Valiant Frontlinesman has 1 trait, and that trait is Defender. We'll go over traits and how they work in a later video. Next is the creature's effect. Next up is the creature's attack values. We'll come back around to this in a second. And finally is the creature's alignment, type, set number, and rarity. Next, we'll take a look at the bottom of the creature cards. You'll notice that they have 3 numbers, one being green, one being blue, and the last one being red. These are the creature's attack values. Green denotes a normal attack and is almost always the weakest. Blue is a strong attack and is generally stronger than the green one. And red is your critical attack and will do the most damage. I don't want to over inundate you all with a massive info dump, so we'll save how these attack values come into play for a future video. Champions and creatures come in 5 different alignments. Noble, the most defensive alignment. Savage, which is the perfect alignment for you aggro players. Arcane, which focuses on heavy control and burn. Wicked, which is all about creating chaos and bending the rules. And finally Cunning, which has a heavy emphasis on comboing cards and never running out of options in your toolkit. These 5 alignments translate into the 5 flux gem card types, which you use to pay for creatures and sorceries. We'll go over exactly how these cards work in a later video. Finally, we'll take a look at sorcery cards. Sorcery cards are a little different than champion and creature cards in that they don't have an alignment and can therefore be paid for using any alignment of flux or combination of alignments. The layout is still similar to the other cards though. You have the name, flux cost, art, sorcery effect, sorcery type, and finally set number and rarity. Currently, sorcery cards come in 3 types. Normal sorcery cards like Buried Alive can only be used once. Once they're used, they're put into the grave. Persistent sorcery cards stay on the field, either until they're removed by another card, or if the effect on the card says it removes itself after fulfilling a certain condition. Gambit sorcery cards are played in response to a certain action being performed during the game. They have a condition stated on the card that must be met before they can be played, and afterwards they are sent to the grave like a normal sorcery, unless otherwise stated on the card. An important note about Gambit sorcery cards is that they can be played on your opponent's turn, as long as the condition on the card is met and you have available refreshed flux to fulfill its cost, while normal sorcery and persistent sorcery cards can only be played during your turn. Because sorcery cards in WarFlux are colorless, they are an essential addition to any player's arsenal. Finally, the last thing I want to go over in this episode are the rarities for the cards, starting with common, then uncommon, then rare, then uber rare. The last rarity is radiant rare, which each alignment has their own version of a radiant rare, with blinged out card borders and a shiny name. You'll definitely know them when you see them. Well, that's the end of episode 1. Thanks for sticking around through the whole video. In episode 2, I'll be going over setting up the game, board layout, and turn rotation. Again, thanks for watching episode 1. I think going forward, my upload schedule is going to be like Thursdays and Sundays until the tutorial videos are finished. And then we'll get into some fun stuff like creature type showcases and advanced player tips and all that fun stuff. Again, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for episode 2, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.